After the soaring high sales and prices we saw throughout the pandemic, Metro Vancouver's housing market returned back to more balanced conditions throughout 2022. This was due primarily to the increased borrowing costs buyers faced as the Bank of Canada struggled to rein in inflation. I'm Adina Oakland Realty here with your January 2023 market update. There's lots that I want to cover in this video today. We're going to recap what happened in 2022, take a little snapshot look at what happened in December, and look at where we're starting off the year now and our insights and forecasts for what we expect to see in the year ahead. So let's get started and jump right into the stats. The Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver reported that we saw 28,903 home sales throughout 2022. This was down 34.3% relative to 2021. But what does this really mean? Well, 34% is a big decrease, but we have to remember that 2021 sales were the highest sales we saw in our history ever. If we look at 2021 sales, they were up 42% relative to 2020, and they were up 74% relative to 2019. If we compare the sales total in 2022 relative to the pre-pandemic totals that we saw in 2019, we see that 2022 sales were actually up about 14% relative to 2019. In an even broader context, last year's sales were down about 13.5% relative to the 10-year sales average. As interest rates continued to rise, so did caution in the marketplace. And as buyers started pulling back, we also saw sellers pull back last year. So the number of listings that came onto the market was down about 13.5% relative to 2021. And it was down about 3% relative to the 10-year sales average. The HPI Composite Benchmark price for all property types finished off the year at $1,114,300. This represents a 3.3% decrease relative to December 2021, and it decreased 9.8% over the last 6 months. Looking at this by property type, we see that the HPI benchmark price for detached homes is currently at $1,823,000. This is down 5.1% relative to December 2021, and it decreased 11.5% over the last 6 months. For attached townhomes and duplexes, we see that the HPI benchmark price is at $1,012,700. This is down only 0.2% relative to December 2021, and it decreased 9.2% over the last 6 months. For condo apartments, we see that the HPI benchmark price is currently at $713,700. This is actually an increase of 1.7% relative to December of 2021, and it decreased 6.9% over the last 6 months. So we recapped at what happened in 2022, but where did we finish off the year in December? If we look at December sales, they were down 52% relative to December last year, and they were down about 20% relative to the previous month in November. What we saw on the ground with many of our clients is that many buyers became more cautious and pulled back, and the ones that were in the market ready to make a move didn't have a lot of exciting selection to choose from. And we could see this reflected in the stats. The number of homes newly listed for sale on the MLS in the month of December was down 60% relative to November, and it was down over 38% relative to December of last year. As a result of this, the ratio of sales to active listings has remained relatively stable. For the month of December, the sales to active listings ratio was 17.5%, so still in balanced market territory. By property type, this ratio is 12.3% for detached homes, 19.5% for townhomes, and almost 22% for condos. So we can see that the weakest submarket of the three is detached homes, currently on the cusp of buyer's market territory. However, condos and townhomes are currently on the cusp of seller's market territory. And leading us into January, over this first weekend, what we were seeing is a lot of activity from buyers getting back out there looking at open houses and scheduling viewings. However, we're not seeing a lot of new inventory coming on yet. So as of right now, the market actually feels to be heating up relative to what we saw from October to December. Looking ahead to 2023, there is reason to be optimistic as many economists and forecasters predict that we are at the tail end of rate increases and that rates may even start to come down as early as the end of this year. However, some are also predicting that rates may stay elevated for longer than initially expected, as inflation has been sticky to come down. On the ground, we're also dealing with several new legislative changes that the government has brought in to protect consumers and further cool down the market. These include the new homebuyer rescission period, the anti-flipping tax, and the foreign buyer ban. For more information on these legislative changes and how we're seeing them impact the market, be sure to follow me on Instagram at adina.yvr. As for a general prediction for the year ahead, I expect it to be a challenging market. I think it's going to continue to be challenging for buyers who are battling affordability, both due to high inflation and to rising borrowing costs. And I think it's going to be challenging for sellers. The main trend that we saw at the end of last year that I think will continue into 2023 is the challenge of bringing buyers and sellers' expectations together. We continue to see that many sellers base their expectations on pricing on the hot spring market, and many buyers are predicting the market will come down further. And this mismatch is making it very difficult to bring them to the table. So I think it's going to be a challenging year, and the momentum will likely continue to be slower and more sticky and sluggish than we were used to seeing in the last 2 years. I think the opportunity this year is really to set yourself up to be in a better place 3 to 5 years from now. If you'd like to schedule a consultation with me, you could click the link down in the YouTube description, or if you're watching this on Instagram, click the link in my bio. And to stay up to date with what's happening in the market as we progress, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on Instagram at adina.yvr. Wishing you all a very happy new year, and I'll see you next month.